Hi, this is Zach Stackhouse. Thanks for Diedrich and Testate for having me back on the program. We're here today to follow up on President Biden's State of the Union address and the revival of his Billionaire's Minimum Tax, just to talk about what's been in that proposal and maybe what some of the issues are when you're looking at it from a tax planning, estate planning perspective. So this tax is a 20% minimum tax. It's a bit of a misnomer. It's not on billionaires, it's on any household over $100 million. And it says that those households must pay at least 20% on all of their realized and unrealized income. So get that, if you have stocks that have appreciated during the year, that's unrealized income. And you're gonna have to make sure that, factoring that in with any stocks you sold, any income, salary, all that you got 20% at least on all of that. So if your normal tax return, does have, you are effectively paying a 20% rate on all of your realized and unrealized income, then you're okay. But if not, you need to make top-up payments to get from your 1040 tax payment up to your minimum 20% tax. And now, in the initial period after this bill, if it passes, you'd have 10 years to spread out the payment of that top-up to that any unrealized income to get to the 20%. And thereafter, you'd have 5 years from any given tax year to make up any missing income tax to get to that 20% minimum on your realized and unrealized income in that year. And the goal of that being to have an even and not have a cyclical tax base from this minimum tax. And then if you're a household that is illiquid, say you have a lot of alternatives, you closely held business, something like that, there's going to be something similar to a 6166 election in the estate tax world, where you can defer payment of the minimum tax and pay it back with interest later. There's some issues when we look at that and what that means, just on that quick summary, when we think about, well, how do we come at that from the estate planning world, and what are the issues we see there? One of them, what is the value of a $100 million estate? What is includable in determining which households are over that threshold and which are under? Are we going to use the income tax definition of includability, which would mean that, your grantor trusts that you've created for your kids or whatever are going to be includable in determining whether you're a household over 100 million or not? Or is it the estate tax valuation of includable, or what's yours? In which case, grantor trusts and non-grantor trusts for that reason are not going to be included in that $100 million calculation. Is it going to be doubled up for married households versus single households? We don't know that. And then there's also just straight up valuation issues. There's a lot in the estate tax world. There's a lot of back and forth with the IRS around what is the value of this entity? What is the value of the interest I've retained in this business when I've gifted part of it or something like that? What is the value of this promissory note that's outstanding or something like that? So you see, there could be a lot of questions about who's in and who's out, and do you have folks who are flipping on and off or trying to stay under to avoid the additional tax burden if they have a lot of unrealized gain? The other question that I have is also about the basis step up. So what constitutes unrealized income, or is it from the original basis, or do you still get the basis step up if you inherit assets and then your unrealized income is just off of that adjusted basis? And yeah, how do you include, what gets included, or what sorts of taxpayers are going to be liable for this? You could imagine a scenario where you have a very, very large $100 million, $200 million trust that's filing 1041s for, say, a minor or a surviving spouse. Is that subject to this? If it has a lot of investment vehicles, it's not clear. So, setting policy aside of whether increasing taxes on high-income households is a good idea, bad idea, there remain a lot of issues to hammer out in terms of, who's going to be dealing with this if it does come to pass. Of course, the divide of Congress, it doesn't seem likely, but something to be aware of, pick through, think about as far as what other adjustments may be on the table if something like this gets advanced or gets any sort of legs under it. I hope that's helpful. Have a great one.